What is up? What is up, guys? Today I'm coming back with another video. Professor John is going to teach you guys how to make $1 million. There's no college education required. It's not that difficult, right? This is going to be a pretty simple way. You don't have to be a scientist to figure this out. What is our first step, right? So we're going to start with the first step, and this is going to be the startup, right? So our first step is the startup. How are we going to start this up? Well, the first thing that we're going to need is a storage unit, okay? We need a storage unit, okay? Once we have our storage unit, which is going to be about $100 a month, then we're going to need to go get some water tanks, right? And these water tanks, let's say that they're $1,000. You want to get a lot of big ones, kind of think like backyard pool, right? So we're going to have water tanks. And we'll say about $1,000. Now you can do 10,000, whatever, you're going to be a millionaire anyway, right? So this is kind of chump change for you. But we're going to be looking at around $1,000 for that. And then we're going to need to go in here. And we are going to need algae wafers, okay? Algae wafers. And this is going to be about, we'll say $50 a month or $20 a month. You can, and you'll upscale, you know, but this is kind of just a general idea. Okay, so now we've got this set up. Well, what are we going to be doing with this? The next thing we need is water, right? Water. We need water. And water is free, right? I mean, I've got a tap. Like, what are you, broke? Just get some water. We're not living in, you know, sub-Saharan Africa. We also are going to need shrimp, which once again, what are we, broke? These are going to be free as well. If you don't know shrimp, you can pull up to like a boat ramp is a nice spot. You can go into the ocean. The sound is probably going to be a little bit better. But boat ramp, super nice. Docks, super nice. Just kind of somewhere where there's setting water, maybe some rocks. And you get this, you can have these large bait nets. You probably want about a 10-foot. And you're just going to, you take the first little metal thing and you grab it. So first you put your hand through the loop and you're going to be grabbing the top. You're going to grab the first metal thing and put it in your hand. And then there's going to be another part hanging. And you're going to grab from the bottom there, that second metal thing, grab it. The third one you're going to grab and just hold it here. And then you're going to throw like this, and it's going to go down, and you're going to catch all your shrimp for free. So shrimp are going to be free. These guys are both going to be free because it's water and shrimp, right? So now you might be kind of having an idea, right? So these guys here is going to be an upfront investment of about $1,000, and then we're going to have $120 a month, and this is going to end up being about $1,440 per year. Right, so this is how we're going to be making our money to start. We're going to have this shrimp farm. So we're going to go put all of our water tanks in this storage unit, and we're going to have all our shrimp kind of, you know, reproducing and hanging out and stuff. Next, we're going to have our production phase. So this is maybe like an A, and then B. Maybe I'll put B over here. We're going to have a production phase. And so this production phase is going to be how our shrimp are reproducing and how we're going to be making the money, right? So we're going to start with about, you know, like start with 10 shrimp or 20 maybe. So we'll start with 10 females and 10 males. So we've got 20 shrimp. Hey, Neen. We're going to have 10 females to start. What is the female symbol? It's like this, right? Something like this. We're going to have 10 of them. Make sure that you guys can see that. Can you guys see that? It looks fine. Maybe I'll write it a little bit bigger, and I'll migrate over to this side. So we'll say 10 female shrimp. Maybe there's no bottom thing there. Yeah. So we have 10 female shrimp. Okay. And with these 10 female shrimp, we're going to want them to be reproducing. Here, we're going to see that each one of these female shrimp is going to produce about 20 maybe a little bit more, but 20 to 40. So we're going to say about 20. This is going to be 20 shrimp every 6 to 8 weeks, right? So 20 shrimp every 6 to 8 weeks, let's call it 7, and then we're going to be getting probably 10 females, right? So here we're going to be getting about, these 20 shrimp here are going to be about 1/3 of a pound. So this is roughly 1/3 of a pound, right? And so with this 1/3 pound of shrimp here, I hope that you guys can see that. Wonderful. We're going to be wanting to kind of female max initially, right? We want to get a nice set of females, and then they'll be making us this 1/3 of a pound for every 6 to 8 weeks. And then if you end up doing the math, it's going to be around 2 pounds a year. About 2 pounds a year per female shrimp that we have, or in other words, this will be maybe $7 a year. Right. Because these shrimp, maybe you'll sell it for like $3.50. You're selling to restaurants and stuff like this. So especially if you're inland, man, this is a North Dakota strategy here, because this is so free. Now, maybe if you're on the coast or something, this won't be as profitable, but still, we're going to be becoming millionaires pretty easily. Not too much like thought process. It's going to be pretty passive income, but we'll get to that. So here we're going to be making about $7 a year off of a female. So now we need to be female maxing. So if we're starting with about 10 females, we'll start with 20 shrimp or something like this. Then with these 10 females, we're going to let about 4 cycles go through. So we're going to have 4 cycles of molting. If you guys are new to the shrimp game and you don't understand, when a female molts, which is about, once a month, but this can depend on the age and stuff, the molting cycle, after they've molted, they shed their skin, and that's when they're kind of reproducing, right? So we're hoping that that we're going to be going through about 4 of these cycles of molting before we start really trying to turn our profit. And this will leave us, we're going to be keeping our shrimp in these, we're going to be getting more tanks and stuff. And this will be about something like 100,000 shrimp. Right. So that's the goal. We're going to be wanting about 100,000 shrimp. We don't really care about incest or anything like that, because we're selling them to eat. Like, it's not like we need them to be, the cream of the crop, prettiest shrimp around. So they can have, they can be kind of getting busy with their sister or whatever. It's not a big deal. So we've got 100,000 shrimp now. And this is going to be clearly, well, if you can multiply 7, this will be $700,000 a year in net profit. Right, so we're making $700,000 a year. So if you do the math, and this is, we've got no type of expenses other than this $1,440 here and this upfront about $1,000, we should be fine. So we're making right around $700,000 a year, which is pretty good. But we can do better than this. And so with this $700,000, we want to start leveraging this, as any good business would, and we want to start expanding. So we need to be expanding our business, getting into different fields, maybe getting more influence, getting more power, and then leveraging that to really start making our millions. You know what I mean? Okay, so now we're going to be going to number 2, order of business. We're going to be expanding, right? So how do we expand? We want to be using the money and the power that we've gotten to start trying to leverage this into other business opportunities, right? So the first thing that we want to be thinking about is, well, we want to be getting different types of shrimp, right? So maybe expand / diversify our product. So our shrimp here. This is clear, right? If we can expand and diversify our shrimp, then we're going to have more product and more potential customers that might not want the colossal shrimp. They might want just our standard red shrimp, or maybe we can start getting like the ones that punch real hard. I don't recall what they're called, but those guys are cool, right? So we can get some of them. Maybe I'll draw a little picture of a shrimp here. I don't even know what I'm doing. But this is kind of the idea, right? This is our target right here. We want to be getting more of these guys. You understand? So we're getting more shrimp, And then after we've expanded, diversified, we've got more product, we can maybe get more business, or some of the business that we've been working with are more excited to be working with us. Now we can go to step 2. And this is going to be unpaid interns. Unpaid interns are super important because you can't be doing this by yourself. You can make $700,000 a year by yourself, and that's not an issue, but we want to be making in the millions every single year, net profit, no overhead. And so how do we do this? Well, we can't afford to be paying people, clearly. We can get unpaid interns. Tell them it'll be for school credit or it's a good experience or something. I just lied to them. I don't know. Lying is a really... This isn't... Lying is going to be super, super important as we go forward. Right, because initially we haven't really been working with people other than maybe the people that we're talking to, trying to sell to them. But here we want to be now trying to expand and make the business, we're working at the business aspect, and that we're going to need to be lying a lot. So we really need to be working on this lying here. Next, after the unpaid interns, we want HR. Right? HR is super, super valuable for 2 reasons. The first reason is they're going to keep you from being sued, right? They're going to make sure that your company is covered, and they're going to make sure that your employees are filling out the forms and doing the whatever to make sure that they are not going to be hurting the company at all. The second is that they can gaslight your employees into making them think that they have it better than they do, and or they won't be wanted elsewhere, right? So they're going to be, this HR is really going to be controlling your employees, making sure that they work for you, and that they're not demanding higher pay, that they're not getting complacent with thinking that they've got a spot guaranteed here. Make sure that you lay people off as well. This is maybe a sub point. Fire people. You want to make sure that HR is firing people. It doesn't have to actually be, maybe you like all your employees. Hire somebody to then fire them, maybe 6 to 8 months after. You just got to make sure that that you're constantly, that your employees have this fear of possibly being let go, right? Because that's going to make them work harder. Next, we're going to have middle management. And this is just going to keep your drones in line. This is very similar to HR. This is going to be just so that you've always got them breathing down your neck and that your employees aren't getting complacent. Very similar to HR, but middle management isn't necessarily going to be the firing people. Middle management, we want to kind of have some kind of air of maybe being on your side, right? Everybody hates HR and everybody knows that they're not for you. Middle management can convince, they can lie a lot better and convince the employees that they really are working with them, and they're not, right? The middle management is always working for you. Make sure that that's very clear. All right. After this, there's a couple options. I would personally stick with this business option. We'll get into that further, how strong this can be. But if you're really just trying to make money and retire and you're cool with the shrimp, which shrimp will be making you money, but I think there's a way to be making even more. We can at least hear MLM, right? So I'm going to sell you shrimp, and then you get 5 friends to then sell shrimp, and you can make this pyramid scheme with shrimp selling. If you want to stick around the shrimp, it's kind of small potatoes, but this is definitely a viable strategy if you just want to have a solid income and you're not really worried about expanding that much. You can kind of just go the MLM route and stop here, right? So this is a pretty terminal position here. Like, you're going MLM, you're kind of stopping. But for me personally, I would continue to keep growing the business, and I would opt to actually get the real best hire, India, right? So this is going to be when you're really committed to expanding the business. Right now, what are you doing? Well, you're feeding the shrimp and you're doing things like this. You've got day-to-day jobs taking care of the shrimp that you're still doing, right? All of the business stuff, you've got the managerial stuff, the HR, people are talking to clients and getting shrimp deals and whatever, but you're still doing the day-to-day feeding the shrimp. India. What you need to do is outsource your shrimp maintenance to India. So you're going to get a guy that's going to do it for maybe a tenth of what you'd pay somebody here, and you're going to create a remote control device where he can feed the shrimp, and maybe he can clean the tanks and replace the water and stuff. You'll get kind of an AI robot that can do this, and then this machine he can operate remotely from India, and it'll be much cheaper. So maybe this AI robot will be about $20,000, and then you pay the dude another, maybe let's say $15,000 a year, right? Maybe 10. Lowball them. I mean, you guys can figure this out when you're there, right? I'm not telling you how to farm your shrimp, but this would be the 2010 rule is actually a super, super common rule in business, that for every $20,000 you spend on your AI robot, you want to spend about $10,000 for the person operating it, right? So I guess it wouldn't be AI. It's just, a remote control, like person kind of. It's a remote control body. All right, wonderful. So that's going to be kind of the extent of our expansion phase. This is really just trying to get some more muscle on your company so that you can do more stuff in the future, which we're going to get to the influence phase. And that's where you really start to shine. Ready? So now we're going to be at the number 3, the influence phase. And the influence phase is going to be when we use this power that we've gotten in phase 2 to start making more stuff happen and hopefully getting into future endeavors that are going to make us a lot of money. Right. So the first thing in influence clearly is going to be lobby. Right. We're going to be going to the politicians and trying to get in their pocket, and we're going to give them money or whatever, in exchange for these favors. And favors, we're going to come in later, what we actually want them to do. But you can never have too much influence in the political sphere. Right. This is very easy because if you can lobby, then your vote actually matters, right? So like when people go to vote, and then whether or not the elections are rigged, which if you haven't seen my previous video, the elections are rigged, but these are not. You can get the politicians to do what you want them to do. Okay, so lobbying is really important. And then what's the other, there's kind of 3 big pillars of information that people have, or public opinion. So we've got politicians. Second is we have scientists. So we want to fund scientists. And the third is the media. Right, so we want to lobby, we want to fund scientists. This is the politicians here. We want to fund scientists, and we want to get the media in our pocket. So funding scientists, there's a lot of options you can do here, right? This is a very, very classic economics problem with funding scientists on shrimp propaganda. So what I personally recommend is that you get the scientists to say that shrimp are the most healthy source of protein, or other sources of protein are bad for you, something like this. And then you can say, but shrimp are good for you. It's kind of like the seed oil situation, right? So you're going to say, oh, animal fats are bad. And then you get the seed oils in there. Oh, chicken is actually really bad for you because of XYZ. We want shrimp instead. Or fish is really bad for you. You've got mercury in it. Or red meat is really bad for you because it's red, and red is scary. Things like this, right? And so this is going to be pro shrimp here, funding these scientists. The media will come into play, and maybe this is kind of like a sub point, is we want a conspiracy. Right? So this conspiracy is going to be really, really important when we have the media control. If you don't have the media control and you start trying to conspire, it's like, okay, you're just going to go to court and you're going to get caught, right? But after we have the media control, it's actually very, very easy to start some kind of conspiracy. Maybe you could start murdering farmers. You could start killing off all the livestock. You could start poisoning ponds so that there's not as much fish, or not as many other shrimp, competition shrimp. You could go around, and there's a lot of things that you could do. I would personally recommend something to just really kill off a lot of your competition, and do it in a way that's like possibly, maybe, it's just a bad year for shrimp, but your shrimp are doing well, right? Everybody knows. Once you have the media is super important here because they can cover up your conspiracy. So they cover up your conspiracy by either not giving it attention, or, when likely there will be some kind of attention regardless, like maybe it's on social media or something, they can bring in experts, right? These experts are going to be your scientists that are already funded. They're going to your media sources, and they're going to be saying, oh no, the shrimp, it's a totally natural thing. And this is natural in the life cycle of shrimp, but only their shrimp, right? Not your shrimp. Your shrimp are doing fine. Your shrimp are succeeding and thriving. right? You have the scientists get on there. The media will continue to keep on playing this like, oh, it's really not that big of a deal, or if it is a big deal, it's not happening. And then if there's any dissenters, the media can get rid of them, right? So the dissenters maybe are the people that are trying to speak the truth about they know you or maybe one of your employees. Which I erased, but maybe middle management wasn't able to keep them in check, and then somebody found out, and then it's a whistleblower or something, right? You can use the media to silence them, ostracize them, and stuff like that, right? So we can dismiss this conspiracy as a hoax, which clearly it's not, right? But we're going to say that it is. Our fourth thing, we're going to mastermind. Right? So likely at this point, you've been working for a couple months, a couple years, and you've finally gotten this sphere of influence. You can do a lot. You're making a lot of money. You're happy, but you're not quite ready to get on to the next, diversification stage of your business. And so here you're going to mastermind. So what we want to do, and maybe I should get a different color marker, is we're going to right, imagine that's a bunch of logs there. If you can see this is a lot of logs. And then you're going to have, we're going to have this type of fire kind of going up, right? So this fire, this is like a campfire, and then maybe you've got a chair here at the campfire. You've got a chair. Whoopsie. You've got a chair here, maybe one down here or something. And you can just sit here, invite other people over, and you guys can just mastermind, right? So you're going to be sitting here, but I wouldn't recommend doing this for too long, right? This is going to be kind of an intermediate step between steps 3 and 4, the influence and the diversification. And here, maybe this is like 8 to 12 months. So to sit around the fire, mastermind, you'll, get some more ideas. And I'm going to give you some starter ideas on what you can be doing while you're masterminding for step 4, what you can be thinking about. But I would just do kind of whatever you're feeling. All right, we're going to have 2 kind of sub points. Let me move so that you guys can see this. 2 kind of little sub points on what we can be doing with this influence that we have so far. We've already talked about the conspiracy, and that's nice. The scientists, that's nice. But how can we use the politicians? We haven't talked about the politicians yet. The first one is going to be on... we want to regulate CO2 emissions, right? So we need to be regulating CO2 emissions. And this is the beauty about lobbying, is that you never lobby for deregulation because people think that the companies want deregulation. And it's like, oh, well, look at this company. He's trying to deregulate, and that's bad. The government is good, remember. They are looking out for you. And the more rules and the more laws you have, the safer everybody will be, is the idea, right? So what we need to be doing here is looking for more regulation. Because in more regulation, both you're squeezing out the competition and you're going to be helping yourself in your public image. People will love you for trying to, regulate something more that's a problem, they think, right? So CO2 emissions is the first thing that we want to be regulating more. We'll be getting to this later. The second thing that we want to regulate, that we want to do more, is we're going to use the media to demonize people that don't carpool, right? So carpooling is going to be your ticket to success. We need carpooling, and we need to demonize CO2 emissions. And what this is going to do is really work in very nicely to step 4, which is going to be diversification. So diversification is going to be our number 4. And this is going to be truck ride share service. Truck ride share service. So this is going to be fixing the issue of truck drivers not having anybody to talk to because they're already doing these long trips, and it's like they're driving up and down the coast or through the country or whatever. You see the truck driver. I don't really know how to draw a truck, so it'll be something like this. The big wheels, and they've got like 8 of them. Maybe this is kind of the window here, and the guy's sitting here hanging out, and there's kind of a front, I think. I don't know. There's some steps, maybe. I don't know. I haven't started drawing yet. But this is this pregnant platypus here drawing is representing the rideshare service. And what you're doing is this thing is traveling all Now it looks like he's got a tail. it's traveling up and down America, long trips. The truck driver is bored, and some people need to be getting long trips, but they can't really, they don't want to fly. Maybe it's too far. Maybe it's not, or it's not far enough to fly, but it's too long for them to want to drive. They just want to be able to hang out and sleep maybe or something. And so what they can do is you use this truck rideshare service. It's going to be it's going to be an app, of course, and it's going to be a tech startup. And maybe it'll have like data science algorithms, and maybe there'll be some AI in there. Just different buzzwords. I mean, you can say whatever you want. It's going to be like Uber, but instead of the drivers being people that don't have a real job, it's going to be people that are truck drivers, right? Make the truck drivers a little bit more money. And the best thing is that it's an app where people are going to pay you for nothing, right? You don't have to do nothing. So now you're saying, well, John, how does this relate to shrimp farming? The shrimp farming was the small potatoes that's going to get us into the government. It's going to get us into the media and into the scientists. And what did we say that we were going to do? Our first thing was CO2 emissions. And our second thing was carpooling. Right? So we can get the scientists in there and just tell them to say that diesel is less CO2 emissions. I don't know if that's true. That sounds right, but let's say that it is. And if it's not, just tell them. Right? Remember, we're lying here, right? That lying is still very important. So what we're going to say is that the CO2 emissions are less on diesel, and carpooling is already good. So we're already happy riding with somebody else, and that somebody else is going to be these truck drivers. Truck drivers will be happy to make the extra money. People will be happy to use your product. And now you really have a zero overhead. I mean, an app is so you don't have to do nothing for it. You just hire some little code monkeys. Maybe that'll be down here. Hire code monkeys. And these guys here are a dime a dozen because, 10 years ago, there was nobody doing software. And then now everybody and their mom got a computer science degree and everybody's unemployed, right? So you can get these guys dime a dozen. This is going to be a pretty solid market plan here. Another caution for me is you want to make sure that you're not paying your code monkeys in any type of stock, right? You don't want to give them equity because the whole point of having them is you want to have them briefly and then kick them to the curb, right? So we're giving these guys maybe, and that's a big maybe, 2.5 years, right? You'll have them for 2.5 years and then you'll fire them, you'll get rid, and you've got this. And then you still got your shrimp farm going, and then this should be making you multi-million dollars a year. Like I'm talking, in the 50, 70 million dollars a year probably with this and the shrimp farms, right? So if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Come to my office hours. It's going to be from 1 to 3 on Wednesdays. And I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you soon.